Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and you might have seen on Instagram or Facebook pictures of the Barn Sweet Barn stitch along. It's so awesome. We've had such a great response to it that I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. We're taking the Flea Market Basket pattern by Lori Holt, and we're stitching the center on 10 count 12 different times throughout 2022, one for each month. And if you visit our blog, each month we're going to list our DMC colors. So let me tell you a little bit more about this stitch along. When I'm starting a project, the very first thing I do is document what I'm going to be doing, so in the future I can always go back to it. So let me write in my cross stitch journal all about my project. So I always list my project name, who the designer is, and here I went ahead and wrote the pattern name so that I know that this pattern goes with this stitch along. I'm going to be stitching this in February, and when I'm done I will put the date I finish. I'm stitching all of these on 10 count vintage cloth in the Daisy colorway. The stitches are 43 wide by 43 high, which is going to be about 4 1/4 inches square. And then from the blog, I went ahead and wrote the colors that were listed in the pattern and then converted them to the colors that we picked here at Fat Quarter Shop. I will track my time, and when I'm done, I will put the number of hours it took me to do this so that in March, I have a better idea of how many hours it's going to take. And if I have any notes, I will put them here. And one thing is, you're going to be using 4 strands, and I'm going to be using a size 24 needle. So those are 2 things that you will need to know, and it's great to write them down. So now that I have everything documented, I'm going to prepare all of my supplies. I bought 3 packages of vintage cloth in the Daisy color, and what you'll do is cut these in 4s. That's going to give you 12 individual pieces that will be big enough to make 12 pieces. So go ahead, do that, and then we're going to prepare our floss. So once you cut each package, you're going to get 4 squares that are 9 inches square. Now from here, you can either stitch just like this, you can serge the edges, or you can just use a sewing machine with a wide zigzag stitch. Go around the edge to keep your fabric from fraying. That is all a personal choice. Get all 12 of your fabrics ready, and now we're going to move to our thread. Here are the 5 skeins we are going to be using for February, and what I do each month is I take the Farm Fresh Egg Floss Drops by Lori Holt, and I skein each one on an egg floss drop, and I number it with DMC floss color. Now, if you don't want to purchase the stickers, you can write on here with a permanent pen, like an Identa pen or a Pigma pen that's permanent. So let's go ahead and floss 3689. When you're flossing, you want to pull from the number side, not this side, and you won't have any knot. So just pull from the side with the number, and if you just keep it flat and pull, you're going to get the best results. Each of these skeins has 8.7 yards, and what I do is I cut them into strands that come out about 1 yard each. So now I find the end where I started, and I'm going to turn this into 8 strands. This is also personal preference. Some people will put this into 16 strands. So that is about 8 1-yard strands. And I'm going to clip the ends. I'm going to take out one of my egg drops and pull out the number. This one is 3689. And you can put the number on the front with a cute bee or the back. I like to put it on the front. And there are 2 holes. I will thread the bulk of this on the bottom. What I'll do is I'll pull 1 strand first. I'll put the bulk of my floss on the bottom. And then what I like to do is leave 1 strand at the top so I can easily get to just 1 strand. And that's how I use the egg floss drops. But a lot of people will not put thread at the top. What they'll do is leave all their thread at the bottom, which you could also do by putting this kind of next to the other so you can easily get to 1 strand. And then they will put all 5 of the egg drops with the colors on a ring, and keep it together. So you can either use this with a ring or without. I tend to use it without the ring. So when I'm ready to start a project, this is what I do. I do all my prepping of my thread up front, and then my very first pieces of thread that I use are these top ones. And what I do is I put everything in a bag. So I've got my bag, and I literally just put my thread in, and I pull one of my 10 count fabrics, and I don't think I'm going to serge them this time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I have time later, I might. I always put a pair of sweet snip scissors in my bag. I'm going to need some needles, so I pulled all of my size 24 needles, pop that in the bag, and of course my pattern, and zip it up, and I'm ready to start stitching. For the Barn Sweet Barn stitch along, we have two finishing options. This is our first finishing option. On this one, we're using a barn from 141 Design Company. We painted it with classic gray stain from Bear, and this is our January piece, and we are putting washers and magnets on here, and we learned this technique from Priscilla Blaine, and this will be interchangeable for all 12 months. And what we've done is we have used Bee Cross Stitch fabric by Lori Holt for the back of each of these, and those are the fabrics we started with, so we picked our DMC threads from that. So that's January. And when it becomes February, just pop on your February. And this is our first finishing option for you for the Barn Sweet Barn stitch along. Our second finishing option is using a house from the Target Dollar Spot. It's $3, and on this one, we are going to do this 12 different times, and we just made a wreath, and we have this glued down, and we have the bottom part also glued down, so I will have 12 different pieces. The main difference in the two finishings is this one is stitched on daisy cloth and the barn is stitched on buttermilk cloth. We have the same fabrics finished on the back of both. Two finishing options, one's interchangeable, one's not, but of course you could make both of them interchangeable. So now you're ready to join us for the Barn Sweet Barn stitch along. I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel, and I can't wait to see everything you make. See you next time.